that's hilarious.
I just looked up how much you pay for an average per square foot for stuff.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how I got to this, but I remember from history class. Do you remember the Louisiana Purchase?
Yeah.
So that was just
that was 300 years ago.
It doesn't matter, but we absolutely ripped off the French when we bought it from them. So we bought the entire Louisiana Purchase for $15 million.
Well, how much is that in today's money? It's got to be billions.
About 2.2 trillion.
2.2 trillion?
But for all of that land, 2.2 trillion.
But think about what it probably was at that time. And what the fuck are the French going to do with it?
I mean, I don't know. But even more, the bigger one that I didn't know about was we actually purchased Alaska from Russia. Mm-hmm. And so this was 1867. And we just paid $7.2 million for all of Alaska.
And doesn't Alaska have a ton of oil?
Oil?
Yeah.
Dude, what a
Alaska's kind of beautiful too.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's, and then it just reminded me of just all of U.S. history. You know how we got California, right?
How did we get California?
We just decided one day that it was ours. It's
manifest destiny, yeah.
We're just this is now ours.
I don't think anyone had claimed. I mean, other than the native.
Mexico. What about Mexico? Owned all of the western United States.
I feel like owning land at that time was a little bit more of an abstract concept.
I would agree.
That was the big thing about the Native Americans is they didn't believe in ownership of land.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I can't remember, and this could be a completely biased.
No, you're right.
This can be a completely biased take, but when the white man came and started offering the native Indians money and things for land, it was they're like, okay, yeah, why don't you go ahead and pay us for the sky too? They didn't really understand what it meant.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess maybe Mexico owned California, but
they definitely did.
Anyway, welcome to our Bears football podcast.
Also, Chicago history. Actually, that was my favorite class.
Chicago history?
Chicago history.
I didn't take that class.
It's a good one.
I think I actually dropped it a weekend. I don't remember why.
You made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Probably because it was Jack Ferraro taught it.
I don't remember what the reasoning was.
It's a great class. I actually reread my Chicago history textbook.
Oh, really?
Dude, it was great.
What's your favorite bit of Chicago lore?
So, obviously, the Fort Dearborn, the massacre. So, that was interesting. I think, the reversal of the Chicago flow was interesting. Mm-hmm. So the guy who wrote the book was Spinney, was his name. And, something that our teacher said was that the Spinney makes a point that the fact that Chicago's geographic location within, the center of kind of, the Midwest,
mm-hmm.
Made it the epicenter of the Midwest, and our teacher would say that's false. So the continental divide for the United States, not the United States, within so everything the continental divide is actually in Edison Park, if you didn't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
in terms of what, it's purely square footage,
No, do you know what a continental divide is?
No.
So basically everything. It's Edison Park, Park Ridge, Norwood Park area. So there's a point exactly, and everything east of here flows to the Atlantic.
Okay.
Everything west of here flows to the Mississippi.
To the Mississippi?
Yeah. So it flows into the Illinois River, Chicago River, which flows to the Illinois River, which then goes to the Mississippi River, which then comes down to the Gulf.
Okay.
So they're saying, so the author made a claim that that's the reason why Chicago became so important, was because of that, and our teacher saying it's not. But the more you think about it, it's exactly why Chicago became so important. Because what happened was all this commerce, anything can come into Chicago, and you can go down and come out through the Mississippi. Mm-hmm. So it became the epicenter for all grain and everything. It just makes too much sense. That's why all the railroads came here. That's why all the infrastructure was here. It all starts in Chicago because we had access to the Mississippi here easily.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. And the reverse of the Chicago flow of the.
How do they do that?
So they dam it off, and then they just dig.
Okay.
They dig deeper the other way.
Sierra, you really gotta chill the hell out. All right, we'll try and jump in from there. Sorry about that. There's probably gonna be some choppy edits there with the dog coming in, but Chicago history. I think it's an appropriate way that we should start this.
Yeah.
First of all, fuck this game that just happened. We can, if you want to talk about a couple of things at the end of this, go for it. I didn't watch it. I worked. Didn't look like there's anything good to talk about it, so I'm ready to just move on.
I fell asleep.
Yeah? So
it was Sunday Night Football, and I was like, I wish it wasn't, and I fell asleep.
So what I wanted to talk about, and we mentioned in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, I think the buzz in the preseason was so much about like this Arlington Heights, Bears leaving Soldier Field, and I feel like since the season has started, not really much has come of it. Not much has come of it, but the chatter hasn't been there. And actually, when I just found an article that came out on NBC Sports Chicago at the beginning of this month that kind of just like broke down what's happened and where we're at now, and it was actually really interesting.
Okay.
But what do you know about the situation? And like, what kind of were your gut feelings when? Because the story kind of broke in like February.
Yeah.
That the Bears had purchased and began demolition on Arlington Heights location, Churchill Downs.
Yeah. So a few things that I do remember about it would be, so number one, like they started talking about it, and I felt like it was a lot of conditional statements. Mm-hmm. It was like, if we move, if we decide to proceed. It was all these qualified statements about if it's going to happen or if it's not. Mm-hmm. It's the first thing I remember about it. The second thing I remember about it was, do you remember the Cubs tried to do the same thing?
What?
When they wanted to renovate Wrigley Field.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, we're going to Rosemont. This was like 2012 maybe.
There is no way in hell the Cubs would ever leave.
Well, that's what they said, though. Yeah. And they're like, if you don't give us the funding, we're going to leave. So I thought the Bears were trying to play the same card that the Cubs were mm-hmm. playing. Like, we're going to leave if you don't give us money. And then, they kept proceeding. I remember that, like, Lightfoot's like, the Bears should probably focus more on winning than moving or beating the Packers than moving stadiums.
I remember that statement.
She did say that, yeah. And then I remember she made, like, a last-ditch effort. Not a last-ditch, but, like, right when they made the purchase, they signed the PSA to acquire Arlington Heights. Lori Lightfoot made this whole presentation on to like upgrade the amenities and all that stuff.
I mean, what a joke that was. So they came out with like this.
I remember.
This CGI rendering of what Soldier Field could be.
Stadium.
And sure, it looked cool.
Concerts.
But it came out after they'd already purchased Arlington Heights.
Yeah.
It was clearly just like a PR move by like the higher ups in Chicago to be like, hey, we made the effort.
Yeah.
Like, because and you say that there were a lot of conditional statements. I think the first thing that came out was the Bears saying, we are moving. Our singular focus is to build our own stadium. That's from the beginning. That's what they said. There have been conditional statements since then about whether or not it's going to be Arlington Heights.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So like. Okay. Yeah. So then, because I do remember all the qualified statements. Yeah. It was like, if we decide to proceed, if we pursue this.
Yeah.
There could be, like, it was all these, I'm like, well, what am I reading? I'm reading a lawyer just qualified the fuck out of this.
Right. So we'll talk into the specifics because, there's actually a couple of interesting things here. In a time where the Bears have just now fired another coach for some
running backs coach,
mysterious things.
What about Sweat getting, we can talk about that later.
We can talk about Sweat later, but, the Bears have had a couple of, like, embarrassing, weird leadership things going on. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of things here in this story that also kind of make it sound like things were not handled the right way or not with a lot of foresight or care. We'll get to that. But my first thought, when the Bears say they're leaving Chicago, my first gut reaction was just like, that kind of sucks. As someone who I've just said in this podcast is really just a love letter to Chicago in my mind. Because I love the city and I like this stadium. I like the idea of the stadium. This is a beautiful, you're right on the lake. For people who haven't been to Soldier Field, you're right on the lake. There's like a really cool park district. This is the Field Museum here. They got the planetarium. It's like a really cool area.
It's actually, that's actually owned. The field's owned by the Park District. The Chicago Park District.
Yeah, that's another motivating factor for the Bears. Bears brass, obviously, is the city of Chicago owns the stadium. The Bears do not.
Yes.
Which I don't know how much money you got to be losing out as a football team by not owning your stadium. Yeah. But probably a good amount.
Yeah.
Especially but I remember it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was first introduced to the truth that I did not believe at the time, that Soldier Field is the smallest by occupancy stadium in the NFL, which is crazy.
No, I knew that.
Yes, it's like it's the place.
62,000. Right?
Soldier Field will never. You want to Google that? Soldier Field will never not be sold out.
Yeah.
And it's not too long ago that they put this kind of like flying saucer dome structure in Soldier Field. It was only
63,500. I was close.
Which still feels like a ton of people, but
nothing compared to like Arlington.
They added all of this. They wanted to preserve the columns, which I understand why. They added all this. It was like 20 years ago. Remember the when they built this?
60,000.
Yeah, the Bears actually played a season in Champaign.
Yeah, I remember
University of Illinois. How sketch must that have been? I wish I would have gone to one of those games.
Yeah.
But it was an absolutely terrible season.
Yeah,
So,
I mean.
So I was kind of sad to hear that this was going to be leaving Chicago proper.
So let's go back about the renovation.
Sure.
So the initial renovation. So first of all, they wanted to preserve the columns because it was a national historical landmark. Did you know that?
No.
Soldier Field was a landmark.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Then they put the spaceship inside of it, and the National Historical not museum society or whatever no.
So it's not a landmark anymore?
It's not a landmark anymore.
I never knew that it was a landmark.
That's an accurate statement. Second thing that was interesting, so they were contemplating whether they were to make a dome or not when they redid this in 2000. They opted not to do the dome. Indy goes and they make the dome. Now, I actually saw this article when I was in about college or right before. The amount of revenue that Chicago lost out on, Indy gets the Combine. Indy gets the Final Four.
Yeah.
Indy gets the Super Bowl. Indy gets all those concerts. Like, they become the epicenter, like, starting off with Chicago history.
Yeah.
Indy is the center of the country and gets all those great events because we don't have a space that can do it.
So, and that's a really good point. So my gut thought was like, it kind of sucks. I mean, I kind of still want it to be in the middle of Chicago.
Yeah, no, me too.
But Soldier Field is not the easiest place to get to.
Nope.
It's really not that great from an amenities standpoint of a stadium. It's fine. Like we had a really good time at that game, and
I was gonna say the United Club's nice.
Yeah, it's fine.
You had a good parking spot, so we got easy in, easy out.
But at the same time, like as this season has gone on, I've been very excited for the idea of having like this like mecca, which is, there are a couple of pictures out there of the what the Bears are planning. It's a huge dome stadium plus like a bunch of properties,
hotels, bars.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything like you can think of, you can name it.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like when you go to a game, I think you kind of want it to be like an experience. So like you can go out, you make a day of it.
More than a day. Make a weekend out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then going back to what you said, I think it's like, the idea of being able to host Final Fours, Super Bowls, these huge concerts. I think that would add so much to the area, and it'd be a lot of fun. I think it's something that Chicago shouldn't miss out on.
But it's not Chicago though. That's the problem. If you go to Arlington, so to your point, them leaving Chicago. So you know where New York Stadium is? The Jets
it's in New Jersey.
It's not in the fucking state.
It's in New Jersey. Yeah.
Do you know where the Dallas Cowboys are?
I don't know.
It's called Arlington.
Is it Arlington, Texas?
It's called Arlington, Texas, which is like adjacent.
Yeah.
So it's not in Dallas.
Yeah. So I mean, there's precedent for this, obviously.
Yes. It's like, and the thing about Arlington Heights, so we're Northwest Siders, right? So we both live off the Union Pacific Northwest line. So for us, we could just hop on the train and get up there. It would be absolutely perfect. Like I would absolutely love it.
Right. So there's precedent for them not to be in Chicago. I think that's fine. I think the benefits are too great to be able to rebuild a stadium. I mean, the Bears, the city of Chicago, did come out and say, like, hey, I think this is actually a picture of it right here. Some reimagined Soldier Field, and then like improving the infrastructure around it to make it a little bit easier to get to. Yeah. I mean, sure, like your CGI rendering of like whatever, fine, is cool. But at the same time, how feasible is it really?
Yeah.
And then you have like the bureaucracy of like a city building the stadium as opposed to just like a private organization. I'm guessing the red tape is going to be less out in Arlington Heights as opposed to building this.
Well, I can tell you this: if it goes to Arlington Heights, they're going to come with open arms, right? Like, why wouldn't a town want that in their? Like, sure, there's going to be people who won't want it, but as far as like, if I'm a mayor and I can bring the Chicago Bears to Arlington Heights or to any town.
So while I was researching this, I do think that's true. I think the people of Arlington Heights and the mayor are fully on board.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
But let's talk about, so there are some major hiccups here.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm interested.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah, I'm interested.
So just a kind of a history of the situation. I got my, my article here. So
Can you what source is this? Can you cite
this is so I listened to a podcast. I forget who hosted it, but it was with the CEO Kevin Warren, and this article quotes a lot of it and also kind of breaks down like what's been going on.
And you're gonna put a works cited on this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, please.
We're a reputable podcast here. We are not a purveyor of fake news here.
What's the name of the style that you have to do? Oh my gosh. Like high school
like
days.
bibliographies, what is that called?
Come
like
on.
ADA format?
Yes.
Something like that.
Okay.
That was always the biggest waste of time.
Dude, and you forgot a period or something, or you didn't italicize this in the right place, and it's like, minus 100 points. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, and then you're just plugging everything into EasyBib anyway.
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely super important that I learned to do that.
If I were a teacher and I'm busy and everything like that, I am not going through people's bibliography with a fine-tooth comb. I'm seeing that they at least did it.
All right.
And I do think for the most part that is pretty much the way, because I was not doing it the right way. I was typing it into some engine, even in college, and I don't feel like I ever got any grief for that. But anyway,
yes.
So February 15th, the Bears released a letter stating that they are closing on the purchase of 326 acre plot of land in Arlington Heights. And that when we were talking about that, that's when for the cold open we were talking about, and Kevin's talking about, this is how much we paid for the Louisiana purchase, and that's how many acres of Louisiana purchase? Did you say that?
Absurd.
Whatever.
So we paid about $13-14 per square foot.
Right.
Compared to homes, which are upward of $300 per square foot, just to give you a reference.
Right. So
undeveloped land, though, so difference.
So they put a purchase agreement on the property in September of 2021, which is actually longer ago than I would have thought. So basically, from the get-go, the Bears obviously they want to own their own their own stadium, and they want to be able to like make it a big destination.
Yeah.
So February 15th they close on that. And they state that they're planning on building a enclosed dome stadium.
This is a quote?
This isn't a quote,
okay.
But the source is saying that it's expected to cost between $2 and $3 billion. I
think that's understated.
Could be.
They spent $5 billion in LA, and I would say it would be just as much, if not more, because LA's stadium was completed 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. It's 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, have you not heard of this thing called inflation?
Yeah, but here's the thing. So yeah, the lease is up in 2033, but it's
for Soldier Field.
But it sounds like
you break the lease, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, or just eat it. I mean,
sure.
Just pay it. I mean, if you have a stadium that's going to be making you a lot more money, you're probably not going to sit on it.
Sure.
But it sounds like from the timeline that I'm reading about that if things go smoothly, I think the Bears might be out of there sooner than that. That's sure. That's my prediction. So they're expected $2 to $3 billion. The Bears come out and make a statement and saying that we are not seeking taxpayer money, but they're saying to our Arlington Heights, like, hey, we're going to need help building the supporting area and things like infrastructure and what they call like tax stability or tax certainty. Mm-hmm. They need tax certainty is like how much
TIF loans. They probably want TIF. They probably want tax breaks. They probably want abatement.
I don't know what any of it. Literally everything you just said, with the exception of tax loans, I don't know what TIFs or abatement is. So I have no idea.
There's like fun TIF loans are like if you do something for the community, they give you like a tax break that you never have to pay back.
So the Bears say in a statement, for the development to move forward and for this effort to be financially feasible, a public-private partnership addressing predictable taxes and necessary infrastructure funding for public uses is essential.
Yep.
Public funds for infrastructure will provide regional improvements such as roads for better traffic flow and water drains for residents throughout the area.
Yep.
The Bears have said numerous times that the purchase and development of the Arlington Heights property was their sole focus as it pertains to a new stadium. Mm-hmm. So from the beginning, just kind of like we were saying before, it does sound like the Bears came out and say like, hey, this is what we were planning on happening.
Yep.
They state the Bears lease ends in 2033.
Yep.
However, here's the situation, and here's kind of the reason why. Do you have any reason why like the Bears started to back off from Arlington Heights and say like, hey, we're exploring other options?
I heard like Naperville at one point in time.
Yeah. So there's a couple of people who threw their hat in the ring. Like mayors from all over. Like as soon as things got a little sketch, mayors from all over the area were just being like, hey, we'll host the Bears.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you'd want.
So here's what happened. Here's exactly what happened. It's not because it's not because like the Bears were like, oh, maybe Naperville would be cool. Here's what happened. So the property was initially valued by Cook County at $33 million.
Oh, they got reassessed.
$33 million, and that's back when it was still Churchill Downs. And then they named the guy who does the assessment. Obviously, there are people who are very upset with him. Assessor Fritz Kagey's office placed the so during a triennial reassessment. What would triennial?
So every 3 years you get reassessed.
So
you just went through a reassessment here in Edison Park last year. I hope you appealed.
That's someone smarter than mine's job.
Terrace?
Probably, yes. Trust me. If that's a thing, then she's on top of it. So $33 million reassessed for a value of $197 million.
Well, it sounds like Crook County to me.
So basically, six-fold spike.
Yeah.
And that was before the Bears purchased. I think this was in 21, but I think the Bears were interested.
So you pay taxes in arrears here in Cook County because they love to screw you. Like, I understand a lot with this stuff, but Cook County taxes are the most absurd thing in the world. So anyone, it's Chicago, right? You own a home. So if you ever look at your bill, they give you like an assessed value, then you have something called a multiplier. Your multiplier is different all over.
Okay.
Basically, if you live in a nice area, your multiplier is higher than lower. It's BS. And what they do is they increase your assessed values for you to just appeal it.
Right.
But like what I'm saying though, so if it was for a 2021 tax year, you pay for it in arrears. So that means you wouldn't get 2021 until 2022.
So that's actually exactly what happened. So Churchill Downs was on the hook for an increased tax bill in 2022, and they filed an appeal.
Yep. There you go.
That the property value was actually 37.2 and not this 197 million.
Yep.
Churchill Downs appealed, and they said the property value is $37.2 million. That's what it was last year, and you literally just increased it by sixfold. Yeah. Right around the time that the Bears were probably sniffing around.
Yeah, sure.
So whatever, the Bears ended up paying, what did I say, it was $197 million for it.
197.2, I think you said.
But that's not the big thing. It's then the taxes on this property valuation.
Yep.
So apparently the school districts in the area, which are funded by property taxes, countered this. So they say 197 million. Arlington Heights says 37.2, and the school districts or whoever the powers that be countered with 150 million. They eventually reached a settlement at 95 million, which took Churchill Downs' payment from the 16, which would have been at the top value, the 197 million valuation, to $7.8 million a year
of taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
it's good. It's a good break.
They state, however, that was just a 1-year agreement between the two sides, and the Bears are now taking over the tax bill, and this whole thing is going to be pulled. Obviously, Cook County or whoever is deciding this is pushing for somewhere around $200 million valuation, which would mean something like $16 to $17 million in taxes a year.
So let's just speak of just really quickly about real estate taxes. This isn't real estate. I'm not an attorney. I have some.
This is not financial advice.
Yeah, I am a CPA though, so I have, and I did work in real estate for 8 years, so I know a little bit about it. But anyways, So with the way the county's seeing it though is they're seeing that a purchase price was made at $197.2 million. It's hard to argue that the value of that property is not $200 million.
How do you say it's?
Well, because the transaction just occurred.
That's true. I mean, someone just paid that much money for it. That's what the valuation is. That's a fair point.
Literally, to its fundamental, like to its core, it's very difficult to argue.
You just paid this amount of money for it. How are you going to say it's not worth that? Yeah.
In addition, so the way you appeal your taxes are how you do it is, so say that did happen, right? You then look for similar homes within your area that are assessed at a different rate. And you say, hey, I'm being unfairly assessed.
But there's no comp.
I was literally going to say.
There's no comp for Arlington Heights.
Where are you going to, how many square feet or how many, 326 acres?
Yeah, there's nothing you can compare it to.
Where are you going to get a comp for that? So hang on, let me just continue this train of thought, right? So knowing all of these facts and me just saying I am not and a real estate tax attorney. I am not. All I have is a
Are we getting into legal territory here? You keep on saying that.
I'm just saying, we're not that important, but we still came to the same conclusion that like someone should have thought this through.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like
we're not that smart.
Things.
You should have known that was happening.
Me going back to the statement, like of okay, like initially when we were talking about this, you were like, okay, the Bears were just like, okay, we have other offers. It's good to explore other offers. Yeah. Naperville wants us too.
Sure.
But what actually happened is they fucked this up, and they now have to pay about 6 times more in taxes than they were expecting to.
Yeah, probably wasn't in the. Probably wasn't in the plan.
So the Bears come out with the statements.
Okay.
So the Chicago Bears' goal of building the largest single development project in Illinois history, led by billions of dollars in private capital investment and the jobs and economic benefits generated, is at risk in Arlington Heights. The stadium-based project. So they're playing. Okay, they're like, Chicago, Cook County, we're supposed to be doing good for you. Here, help us out. Meet us halfway.
Yeah.
However, the property's original assessment at 5 times the 2021 tax value and the recent settlement with Churchill Downs for 2022 being 3 times higher fails to reflect the property is not operational and not commercially viable in its current state. Because right now, it's just a fucking
you can't even make any revenue on it.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, it's a sunk cost.
Yeah. So and they've already demolished it as of like October, I think it was like September.
Is it demolished?
It's gone. It's demolished. I mean, maybe it's not leveled. I mean, they've certainly started tearing it down, but the Bears have gone through all of this. The Bears have continued going on with demolishing it because, I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the way to go. Maybe they could have kept. Maybe the Bears could have also owned a racetrack on the side. That'd be neat, right? Maybe you can catch a game out there if you can't make it down to Soldier Field.
There's a funny joke with Justin Fields there. I'm just not gonna go. Go ahead.
So they actually got a statement from this assessor, Fritz Kay's office, and it was very bland. It was like, our office's mission is to assess property based on market value, which they paid $197 million, or they paid whatever for it.
Yep.
Obviously, it's valued at more than $37 million. The 2022 assessment of the former Arlington Racecourse site is consistent with both the 2023 purchase price of the property and the price per square foot of other similarly sized land in the area. The facts speak for themselves.
So what similarly sized price?
It's not mentioned in this article.
So those were quotes you're reading.
Yeah,
right?
So that's a direct quote from the assessor, this Fritz KG guy.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So the Bears then walk back, like, okay, maybe we're not going to do Arlington Heights then. We're not going to be. I don't want to pay all this money in taxes, but again, they already own it. Who the hell's going to be it?
And I was literally thinking to myself, how are you going to get
it's currently a sunk cost, but I think they're going to try and play hardball. I mean, at a certain point, it could just become like a moneyball game where like, okay, we're on the hook for this. But I guess you got to pay the taxes anyway. But anyway, so Naperville comes out and they're like, we would love to have the Chicago Bears, and apparently, I think at Naperville, and I'm just like, is there really area to construct something at the level?
Dude, you go on 88. I mean, you drive on more highways than I drive on. Just think about all the vacant land.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're right.
It's not like it is in Chicago, right, where there's nothing, right, where you're crammed in. Like, there's space everywhere.
The new mayor of Chicago met with Kevin Warren, this Bears CEO, in 2 separate times, basically saying that we're still trying to keep the Bears here. So they're in talks, I guess, of that still happening. But I'm sure the city of Chicago is never going to let the Bears own the stadium. Mm-hmm. I realistically don't think that there's any hope of that happening.
Yeah.
And in addition to Naperville, this didn't really get much headlines because it feels like less likely. Waukegan threw their hat in the ring, as did Aurora.
No.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't really know, but. So Kevin Warren, the Bears CEO, in a podcast mentioned, he said, "I'm hopeful that we're going to come to a decision within the next 12 months." So probably sometime before the end of 2024, they're gonna know.
Let's Hans, I want to pause really quick.
Sure.
So what I feel like a lot of this stuff is, and why like kind of the conversations have kind of died down now. Mm-hmm. Like the off season for the Bears isn't very exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
I think this is exciting news, and I'm surprised.
No, it is. So, why not heat up the conversation for that? Keep the Bears in the news, keep them relevant in the off season. Mm-hmm. That's kind of why it's like, let's just extend it for another 12 months. Second the season's over, guess what the number one topic's going to be?
Yeah. But at this point, do the Bears really want this to be the number one topic?
Yeah. they're dumpster fire team right now, dude. There's a lot of questions on the Bears.
All right.
You don't think so?
No, 100%. Yeah, but like,
would you rather talk about a new stadium or talk about all the embarrassing season?
I think it matters so little for the Bears if the people are being critical of them, like, in the off season, and like, yeah, I think any publicity is good publicity for a team like the Bears. Like, they're not trying to fill seats. They don't need people.
They don't need to.
They don't need to be people. Yeah, they don't need people to be excited to make about the same amount of money.
When we went to the game, the Raiders-Bears game, it was 2 backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, and it was full.
And everyone's going crazy.
Yeah,
over 2 backup quarterbacks.
And you're still paying $12 a beer.
Dude, it's insane.
I tried to find information as to whether or not it is economically beneficial to have a what's the trade-off between like spending money on players and making your team good versus what's the cost benefit?
Yeah, break even.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see if there's any data out there. Like, do owners of teams benefit from making their teams good? Or is this like an Oakland A's situation where you should be playing money ball?
Well, I think you can't get an accurate statement on that because it depends on market.
Yeah.
Right. So in Chicago, you can put out whatever you want.
Exactly.
In Green Bay, now Green Bay's had a long history of success and a good fan base. If that team sucked, John, for the past 30 years. I think they would be hard pressed.
I disagree. I think Green Bay is a bad example because I think that's in their blood. It's the Packers and hunting.
But they've been so good for so long.
I still think because before Brett Favre, the Packers were bad. Packers were historically bad. The Packers only recently
like Bart Starr, but the Lombardi Trophy, dude, it is named after Vince Lombardi.
Yeah, but like
historically bad.
No, true. I mean, it's true. Like the Bears only recently lost the edge in that.
Because they've been around for 103 years.
No, but the head-to-head edge. Yeah. The Bears only recently lost like the head-to-head win losses in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so I mean, but the Bears in our lifetimes probably have like a sub 30% win rate against the Packers.
Who's the all-time leading wins franchise?
Is it the Packers?
Oh, it's the Packers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
it's historically bad franchise.
Well, no, I'm not saying okay, not a historically bad franchise. Bad, okay, but the Packers have also been are one of the original teams too. They've been around forever.
So let's talk about another market. So
Jacksonville. Yeah.
Okay, that's literally we thought about the same exact team.
Yeah.
They want to move to London.
I don't think they want to move to London.
Well, they're talking about it.
That could happen.
They played 3 games. Was it 3 games this year over there, or 2 games?
But that goes to show a place like that you need to probably put out a good product to get people excited.
In Jacksonville,
yeah.
probably.
Big markets you don't have to. That's why everyone wants to go to big markets.
Tampa Bay, they were an expansion team.
Yeah.
They won the Super Bowl when Brad Johnson was there, and what's his name? Who's the guy got fired? Tom Brady. Not Rich Gannon. No, who got fired?
John Gruden.
John Gruden.
Yeah.
Rich Gannon was the quarterback in Oakland. So they won that Super Bowl. And then in between that, with Warren Sapp and stuff, and Tom Brady, no one went to Tampa Bay Buccaneer games.
That's true.
And then they won a Super Bowl, and now they got fans again.
That's true. So the one last thing to say about this Kevin Warren guy, apparently...
I don't know him that well. He's a president and CEO?
I believe so. And they brought him in. Apparently, he was instrumental in the Vikings stadium construction.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So Viking seems beautiful.
And I did like hearing that this guy actually has been around because as I've mentioned before, this whole situation of buying Arlington Heights, not taking into account the fact that it was getting reassessed. And then you're paying 6 times the taxes.
Can you look up his Wikipedia picture real quick? Kevin Warren.
Kevin Warren, why?
Oh, it's just a good one.
Is it? Okay.
I think it's rather funny.
Which one?
Just go to his Wikipedia page. Yeah. Look at that picture.
It's not it's not the most flattering.
What is he doing?
What is he holding?
It looks like a football trophy of some sort, but he's just kind of like, ooh, my prize.
Yeah, he probably could have found a better picture for that.
My precious.
I wonder, do you know how to edit Wikipedia pages?
Oh,
can we just do it?
We used to be able to.
Start editing. Anyone can edit, and how is it that I could just click on this and edit Wikipedia pages?
This is why Wikipedia is not a reliable source. Everyone knows that.
I guess so. Are we sure it's a picture of Kevin Warren then?
I don't know, maybe. It's really funny.
Well, it seems to be.
Yeah. I just looked it up to see his Wikipedia page.
So the last thing I'm going to stand by saying is Kevin Warren comes in and says, we're hoping to make a decision in the next 12 months.
Yep.
And then he says, what I've learned from stadium developments from this is, once shovel in the ground, it's probably going to be about 3 years after that. So we could be looking at.
I'd say longer than that.
I would have guessed too, but that's what he said. That's exactly. Like, he didn't say it in uncertain terms. He said shovel in the ground. I'm expecting probably about 3 years after.
From a man that is going through a renovation project of his house, I can tell you any timeline you get from a construction guy is not accurate.
But he already did it once. Yeah, I mean they completely built, and U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota is a big project.
You know how much that cost?
How much did it cost?
$1.13 billion.
So we're looking at like close to double, maybe more than that for the Chicago Stadium.
But it's more than just that, and plus Minnesota, Chicago. Think about all the unions are probably drooling over this. Mm-hmm. Imagine they're being charged. I've heard multiple stories when I did Wrigley Field. Like, there was no budget with Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
It was like...
But that I think that kind of thing is more likely to happen when you're dealing with, like, the state and bureaucracy. Because the state, all that money is going... I think, some of it you could say it's corruption, but some of it's just like, okay, well, the city is like, we're the city, we're paying people... We're paying the city, and and the people who work here are getting paid. Yeah. So it's like at the end of the day, like we just spend what we need to. It's coming from taxpayers. It's going to the taxpayers.
But who's paying the taxes, John?
We're paying the taxes.
And did you know?
But then it's going to guys like our boy Joe, who like was out there building the highways and stuff like that.
He hates unions.
No, I can't comment on any of that. But anyway, like I think my point being is,
you go to Wisconsin, we pay so much in taxes already. Mm-hmm. Like so it's like us, California, and New York are the three worst states to live in.
Yeah, but okay, not worst. Okay, in terms of taxes. But we live in a clean city with pretty good infrastructure.
No, we have the worst infrastructure in the country.
I don't think it says who.
The highway system, the Kennedy. We have one way in on the north side. It's the Kennedy, and one way in from the south side. It's the Dan Ryan.
Well, they're constructing all that right now. It's gonna get fixed.
The Kennedy's gonna be under construction for 15 years, Shannon.
Yeah, but you know what? By then we're.
Do you know the Jane Bryan interchange in Chicago?
Yeah.
Do you know how long that was under construction for?
How long was it under construction
3 decades, John.
3 decades.
Do you know that was funded from Obama's stimulus package in 2008?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just got done. It's 2023, dog.
We just need to...
3 decades.
We just need to focus on walkable cities. That's what the future is going to be. Anyway, whatever.
Let's talk this week, Bears football. Let's wrap it up.
Well, okay. The first thing I'm going to say is
Steelers just took the lead 2016. Will Levis is going to have to do some work to come back. Obviously, it's Thursday night.
All right. So, do you have anything to say about this Bears game? Because I literally have nothing to say.
All I want to say is that the Sweat trade. At first, I got super concerned because trading a second-round pick at the trade deadline, it's trading for a player with a second-round pick at the trade deadline. I had eerie flashbacks.
Claypool.
Yeah. Claypool.
Yeah.
But I think Sweat's a much better player. He's on the last
year of his contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to pay him if we want him.
If they don't sign him, they'll franchise tag him.
Really? You think so?
I mean, you're not gonna give up a second-round pick to not keep him longer than in a wasted season.
Fair. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that was a bad move. I think so. Fields is ruled out already for this week again.
I was shocked by that. From the time of the injury, they were so like this is going to be day by day as soon as he can grip the football. And the day after, we have that embarrassing loss. Or like Tyson Bagent is our starter, which I'm fine with.
Did you hear Eberflus in his he had an interview the other day?
No, what was it?
Is Justin throwing the ball? Well, he's working with trainers and he's day to day.
So no, I kind of like thought, when I heard dislocated thumb, that it was going to be a couple of weeks. I think I probably said it in the podcast that it's going to be a month.
So like I know a little bit more about that. You're obviously a doctor, so
I just knew. Like I mean, I don't. When you got a thumb, and all the ligaments in there are probably torn up or at least strained and stretched, he's probably not going to have the same grip strength. And I said from the week that he got hurt, like they're not going to be in any hurry. They're not going to rush him back and make him play kind of hurt. There's no point.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah, so might as well get Tyson, see what he can do.
Spread right now is 8.5 points. Looks like 75% of the money are on the Saints to cover.
I'm not touching it. I put $25 on the Bears to cover against the Chargers because it felt like it was a ridiculous line.
I know,
because the Chargers aren't any good either.
They looked really good.
They looked good. I mean, our defense absolutely didn't show, and our defense had showed up a couple of games, but they did not.
Yeah. I'm not touching it either.
Yeah.
If you have Kamara, I would play Kamara this week.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's gonna score about.
Well, you're gonna play Kamara regardless.
But if you have DCF, like Kamara's gonna have a monster game.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you he goes all-purpose yards. I say he goes for 175.
Okay. 175. That's a lot of yards.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a lot of yards. I don't think he's gonna need to.
I think he's gonna have some breakaway. He's gonna have like a nice little 60-yard touchdown and another 75.
We'll see. I'm not hyped on the game, honestly. Just more excited to talk about this renovation thing. Yeah. In the week, I think it's the week after that. Bears play Thursday night. You know where they're playing?
What week would that be? Detroit?
No. Well, I mean, I could be wrong about my timeline, but the Bears-Panthers game is coming up.
Oh, it's like week 13, I thought.
I'm pretty sure it's a Thursday night game. I don't know. I don't think it's week 13. I could be wrong, but it's coming up. It's on the horizon. That's going to be quite the interesting experience.
Oh, we're going to have to extensively cover. Oh, no, you're right. It's next week.
Yeah, so we play the Saints, and then it's Thursday night the following week.
The Panthers.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I want to know what the over-under on that game is going to be.
God. Well, I mean, the Panthers,
let's just take a guess right now. What do you think it's going to be?
The over-under in that game?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the Panthers defense, but I'm going to say 30-31. No.
Did you see the Hawkeyes?
34.
Did you see the Hawkeyes Minnesota over-under?
No.
It was like 24.
I don't think they hit it, did they?
No,
they didn't.
Yeah. You're going to go 34?
I'll say 34 to that game.
I'll be bold. 36.
36? Okay, probably bold. 2 points higher than you.
Well, I was gonna go either really low or more reasonable. Actually, no, fuck it. I'll go 30.
30?
30.
That's too low. I think because the Bears have the ability to open it up, and Fields will probably be back at that point. I think he'll come back. We'll see. All right.
We'll see. Awesome.
Anyway. Guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Oh, and to our new biggest fan, what's our boy's name?
OG
Big Guy or something like that.
OG Big Guy.
Our first
312.
Our first rando comments who just thank you for letting us know that it is Brian Hoyer, not Brandon Hoyer. This is the correction portion of our podcast.
Okay.
All right. Yes, so it is Brian Hoyer, not Brandon Hoyer. Okay.
You know what? It was close enough.
We definitely don't want to be disrespecting that guy.
I agree.
Because he looked strong.
He looked like he was 38.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Later.
We have to come with a title for this thing.